Hello and welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. About a year ago, you would all remember I aired a show which was titled On the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation. This we did when the center was set up at the OP Jindal Global University. And of course, we had the Vice Chancellor of the Jindal Global University, Professor Rajkumar, and Cyril Shroff, who has funded this center and given a grant for it. He was also present on the show. He, as we know, is the managing partner of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Today is a momentous occasion. We sort of complete almost a year of the center. A lot has been achieved. We get to discuss that today right on the campus of Jindal Global University in this beautiful hall. And I want to welcome today Cyril Shroff, the managing partner of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Good to see you and thank you for your time. I have with me the Vice Chancellor of the Jindal Global University, whose brainchild this center is. Good to see you, Professor Rajkumar, and thank you for your time. We also have with us Siddharth Chauhan, who heads the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation, who will share with us what he's been sort of involved in the past year. And there's a new guest on the show who was not there last year, but she joins us this year, Paridhi Adani, who's partner with Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Good to see you, Paridhi. Thank you for your time. At the outset, let me request Professor Rajkumar, the Vice Chancellor of Jindal Global University, to do a sort of a introductory comment before we go to Cyril Shroff and the others for their comments. Over to you, Professor Rajkumar.
Thank you very much, Tarun. It's an absolute delight to be part of this show, especially when we were there at the very launch of the idea of the center. The Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation that was established through a philanthropic initiative of both Cyril Shroff and Vandana Shroff here at Jindal Global Law School is a stellar example of a progressive, truly transformative global law firm such as Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas to be able to work closely with academic institutions with a view to advancing the need for thought leadership in a very important area that is increasingly going to define almost all aspects of life and the world of business. The vision of the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation is to provide important perspectives surrounding the intersectionalities of law and regulation within the larger context of artificial intelligence. In fact, since the establishment of the center, there have been so many developments in India, but also around the world. And one can imagine that the kind of opportunities a center of this kind can provide. In fact, we're very fortunate that although the center was launched nearly a year ago, we took several months to get the organization structure done, and we're barely now 5 months old as a center in terms of its activities. And a phenomenal array of activities and initiatives have already taken place. And so in a way, this is a defining moment for India as we prepare for the Global AI Summit to be happening in the next few weeks. A center of this kind with the collaboration of progressive law firms such as Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas has the opportunity to provide new ideas, new perspectives in the entire regulatory and legal architecture of artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Professor Raj. I'll go to Cyril Shroff for his opening comment. I think you're the first law firm who sort of funded such an initiative, of course, very forward-looking. I want to know that what, in a view, with what sort of aim in mind you sort of bought into this idea, and with AI virtually taking over all industries and a huge impact on India, how would you expect this center to do in future?
Well, thank you for that, and delighted to be here on this recording. So I think AI has, of course, as we know, is the biggest idea of our times. It is penetrating almost every aspect of life, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's services, knowledge services, governance, policy governance as well. There is no aspect of human existence where AI is not now making a presence felt in different degrees and measures. And I think when you look at the size of what the opportunity is and what is happening and the impact, the policy framework is policy and legal framework is somewhat inadequate. So this was a gap that we identified and felt that this topic should be studied from a legal and a policy perspective. We don't write code here. What we do is we create the ethical and the policy frameworks which will govern the way AI evolves and starts impacting our life, because otherwise it could result in a lot of accidents if there is unregulated or harmful activity that results from this very powerful thing called AI. It will bring the entire industry into disrepute. So when there is a solid ethical and legal framework, you actually improve the chances for its success. So this is one part. The second part, I think, is more personal, and which is that I've always wanted, me and my family always wanted to make a deep impact on contributing to India. In terms of, we are great believers in India, very much like the Jindal family and Raj, in terms of we wear our nationality on our sleeve. Today I'm wearing it in my pocket actually. And I think that therefore to do something like this in India in an Indian university with an Indian soul, that was very important as well. And I think from whatever I'm seeing, this is coming true as well. So this is about nation building as well. And contributing in a way. And since India is going to be at the forefront of a lot of these technologies, I think we can influence the world from here. It is not only India for India, it is India for more than India as well. And that would be a great contribution that was made. So, and I think we did it from personal philanthropy, and I'm very, very committed to giving ideas, sharing ideas, providing support in whatever form for making this center a success. So that was part of the motivation, but more later.
Thank you. Thank you for that opening comment. In fact, yesterday I had the opportunity to chat up with Richa, who's one of your partners, and she sort of briefed me on what all policy work you've been doing at the firm. But this is now extending to beyond the firm, where you're funding initiatives outside, like the Cyril Shroff Centre. I'll go to Siddharth Chauhan. Siddharth, you've been sort of at the helm of affairs on a day-to-day charge with this work. Could you sort of let me know what has been going on at the Cyril Shroff Centre, and where are we headed in future with this kind of an initiative which you have got the opportunity to spearhead?
Thank you so much. And it's really my privilege that I'm heading this center, and it bears the name of Mr. Cyril Shroff. I think that's where it begins, and it sets us to very high standards. So I think that's what I will begin with, something where there is integrity in research, there is more responsibility towards what we're doing, more responsibility towards our students we bring in. So I think that name which the Jindal University has decided to take forward is something I would say a big responsibility, but having a partnership with the firm which has been at the helm of, it's one of the first few firms which has decided to take AI in their practice as well. To bring that to our university has been, students have really appreciated it. So I'm very thankful that you chose this university. In the beginning, we decided that we are going to, the three core ideas were about, of course, ethical research, which we're doing on AI, and then on teaching, how we build our institution in terms of like how we bring AI framework in teaching, and third, on the policy framework. So right from the beginning, we were, building on, the AI summit. So we actually hosted 3 to 4 pre-AI summits on very important issues on AI in healthcare, AI in the service industry. We also, spoke about legal education, what's the impact, and all of them were approved by the government of India. So that was a very, interesting thing, and we were very happy about that. Moving on, then we started off, we did research on various topics related to, the one which we're currently looking at is horizontal regulation for AI, which the paper will be out very soon, and we'll be very happy to share once it will be out very soon. We are looking at a regulatory framework of, building on ethical frameworks, essentially, because of course, slowly we will have to look at frameworks which are sort of important for each industry. but we have to also sort of look at one horizontal framework that's currently which India needs, and which is, of course, building on what already is there. And I think another very interesting perspective which the center has been able to sort of build on is the policy framework, essentially. And what has happened, all the latest developments which have come in, we have been proactively commenting, giving our thoughts and discussions, and we've been sharing that information with METI, with other officials, and we also had the chance to sort of comment on the sandbox regulation for fintech, and we've been at the forefront of giving those comments and essentially, regulating, and we're watching the space very closely. Our students are very actively involved. I think very interesting initiative which we are taking, which I feel like as a center, which is our biggest responsibility, is not that AI is not going to change all our lives, but also the people who are in different walks of life. So with our students who are absolutely brilliant, I would say that we are building this, how do we make people understand about AI and its implications for a layperson? So that is something, a project which is ongoing and which is going to be our very big project for our upcoming semester when our students are back on campus, to really ensure that every person from different walks of life are able to understand what they're getting into. So I think that's something I feel is going to be a meaningful contribution. And of course, a legal profession is definitely, ahead in its times, and we'll have to see where we sort of take that.
Thank you, Siddharth. And now I'll go to Paridhi Adani, your partner with Cyril Amachand Mangaldas. We all have seen, Paridhi, in the past few years, what impact AI has had on the law firm business. Drafting has become automated, though it needs checking. Case law research has become much simpler. All the law firms that I go to, the record rooms are vanishing or have vanished, and they are replaced by office space because they say we don't need them anymore. Everything is on a server. Now, with this center, what is your sort of an idea about AI, and how will it shape our lives, the lives of people in the legal business? And what is your in a sense, viewpoint on what the center should achieve or should contribute in a manner which will have a positive impact across industries and policy making too?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me here. Very excited to be here and to spend this day, particularly this day at this campus, because the last 24 hours have really evoked a sense uh, of nationalism, a sense of pride for the country, and for the and respect for the people who've put in so many so many hours, months, years into that. And I'll answer your last question on that same theme, that I think we should aspire to do just that. Do something for the country, do something for the community, the world at large, people affected and impacted by the use of AI. And I think today the world is sharply divided by those positively impacted and those perhaps negatively impacted. And I think we need to change the universe of that, to say that somewhere we can help people think about the dangers of overuse, what could go wrong if there is no ethical framework, for example. And I think put the right questions on the table. That's a starting point, and we can slowly build up to better impact. I think in terms of AI and technology, perhaps our firm has been an early user. We've been doing this for over a decade in different forms, and so when AI sort of came at the profession in a stronger way in the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months, I don't think we were caught off guard. In fact, we felt that we were part of shaping how the market has been using it. And I think we would like to continue to do that, to be able to help people think about the right way of using technology. We would encourage more and more usage, but also to sort of use it as a co-intelligence method rather than a complete replacement. Currently, I think the way AI has evolved is it's at a tool stage. It hasn't reached a capability and a co-intelligence stage just yet. And maybe we should be having some of those conversations as well, that how do we take it beyond automation? How do we take it beyond efficiency? Maybe think a little bit about more institutional memory, pattern recognition. And there's a lot more that can be done, frankly. But the best way to do it is to actually, A, have conversations, and B, encourage more usage, create sandboxes of our own, frankly, experiment, fail, redesign, and keep going at it. I think we've come across a lot of people who are enthusiastic and entrepreneurial in this space, and we hope to be able to actually attract those kind of conversations, maybe convene them, bring together people who have ideas, who have thoughts, who have dreams, and cause some change in this space. I think the center can do that. I think the center can help a lot of industries and sectors also come to a place to raise some of these existential questions, because AI has impacted everybody. And in some cases, it's an impact that has driven out an industry. In some cases, it has the power to actually amplify and enhance the outcomes. So I think we should be able to convene some very strong conversations in that space.
Thank you, Paridhi, for that comment. I think you refer to artificial general intelligence, and I'm going to take that point to Professor Rajkumar. The very interesting title, when you say Cyril Shroff Centre for AI, it says law and regulation, which clearly means that you attempt to sort of shape law and regulation in India. How do you see? I'll tell you why. There was a lot of discussion in America about what if an automated car knocks somebody down and he passes away? Who do you blame? Because the car is clearly driverless. Do you blame the code writer who wrote that code on whose basis the car is running? Or who would you blame for it? That question still remains unanswered. I read this in The Economist, where they were reflecting on this fact that, the code writer who wrote the code for the car, can you haul him up that, why this car involved in an accident? What I want to ask you is that, what do you aim to do with these kind of questions that sort of arise whenever AI is spoken of in terms of law and regulation?
Well, absolutely great conversation, and thank you for that. So let me just recognize the fact that we are at the formative stage of both understanding the technology and even understanding the implications of the technology. And rather, quite unfortunately, almost all aspects of the use of technology today is largely led and governed by basically the people who are inventing this technology and putting it out there. And so there is a sort of natural sense of excitement and urgency and expansion that's happening where these technologies are just out there put in the public domain. So with the opportunity that the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation has is to provide thought leadership on 5 aspects. And I'll quickly run through it, and each of which will directly respond to the question. First is that because it is housed in an academic institution such as the Jindal Global Law School and OP Jindal Global University, we have an opportunity to provide learning ecosystem for the students in particular. So we have a number of courses, including degree programs. We have probably the first of its kind in Asia, not just in India, a Bachelor of Arts, BA in AI and Law. We also have a master's program which focused on AI and Law. And then we have programs which are focusing on data analytics from the business school standpoint. We have an MSc in AI and digital sciences also. So in a way, the purpose of all these programs, including the courses that we offer in the form of elective courses, is to build intellectual capacity and understanding relating to AI to the students.
Thank you.
The second aspect is about research, which is where we focused on, and that's where Siddharth talked about creating new knowledge, developing understanding of the implications of technology, in many ways providing leadership on law and regulation so that the implications of this technology we are better prepared so that the regulatory architecture is able to respond. The third is, of course, training and capacity building. The fourth is having opportunities for hosting lectures, conferences, workshops, and seminars. And the fifth is policy advocacy and working closely with the government, including potentially appearing before the parliamentary standing committees, and in many ways providing a more rigorous and evidence-based intellectual engagement, which unfortunately does not and cannot happen in other settings. Academic institutions are uniquely suited to provide that.
Now I go to Cyril Shroff, managing partner of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, and somebody who has sort of backed this venture called the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation. Now at the law firm, I spoke to Richa Roy yesterday, who is here with us, and she told me that the firm already contributed to a AI report on ethical use of AI. And now we see this big announcement from you last year of you partnering with India's leading university, the Jindal Global University, and backing this sort of a venture. What is your sort of, in a sense, because Professor Rajkumar just said that he wants sort of to go to parliamentary committees, give input, shape lawmaking in India via this center. How can that be done using the center's resources and the intellectual manpower that now you have backed at the Jindal Global University? Could you sort of give us a peek into your thinking on this?
So I think I can only help in kind of expressing my wishes and aspirations, but the Jindal Global University and the AI Center will really have to execute and carry it forward. So the idea of working with an academic university such as Jindal achieves a number of purposes. Firstly, I think it brings a sense of intellectual neutrality, and it sort of provides a research base and provides knowledge which is thoroughly researched. It provides knowledge, brings experts to the table, and the convening power of a university is always more than any private person. So I think that is point number one. And therefore, when we are looking at policy making, whether it's in parliament or whether it's in the private sector or whether it's in other, infrastructure or intermediate providers as well, that academic distance that comes with, and the thoroughness that comes with working with a center like this, it takes it to another level. I also think that this can be used to solve what I call the most wicked problems of our times. There are a lot of wicked problems, one of which is in the arrears, in the judicial arrears, and just the access to justice as well. We've been trying to solve it for decades, and it has not been solved, and it only seems to be actually getting worse as well. So unless you add something new and powerful to the mix, like AI, it's not going to get solved. I think I feel that there is almost like a secret weapon here in terms of what AI can achieve if we master the technology properly, that it could solve and substantially mitigate this problem. The judiciary itself is also dealing with this entire topic of AI in a number of ways, not only in terms of the arrears problem, but I think in terms of also looking at the substantive law about it, like the copyright issue is a big one as well. So and this is a case that is going on in the US as well. In the many European courts that are dealing with it, we are dealing with it in India as well, because the training material that is used is maybe from the public domain, but it is somebody's IP. So where does the line, where is the line in terms of what IP is protected? How do you protect creators? How are you going to look after and protect interest of vulnerable sections, whether it's children or others? I think so these are big issues which the judiciary is dealing with, and nobody has the answers as well. And that's where I think an academic institution like this will come up with a number of potential solutions as well. I mean, it has to be accepted by society, but the chances of it being accepted by society are much greater from an academic institution than a private party. So that was the thinking.
Okay, point well taken. Thanks for sharing that. I'll go to Siddharth Chauhan. Siddharth, any sort of reports or sectors that you wish to sort of focus on in the coming year, and anything that's on your mind in relation to that? That, okay, these are two sectors that we're going to work on in 2026, and maybe by the end of it, there'll be some report or some recommendations or a paper that is going to come out. Or any sectors you personally like to work on in the coming year?
Thank you, Tarun. I think very important, the initiatives which we want to sort of bring in 2026 essentially is to sort of to build on some of the work which we have done in 2025, which essentially also was a pre-AI summit on, India and healthcare. And that's a very big sector which we want to focus on. We want to bring out a white paper on AI and healthcare in India and how that can, and what are the ethical challenges and what are the responsibilities we need to be, keep in mind. So that's one. I would say second, essentially, is we are also very focused on, what Mr. Shroff just said, that, this problem of pendency which is there. We want to sort of, have a collaboration with different partners who are essentially trying to solve that problem, where we come in as a academic institution, because you see around the world you have academic voices and they are being heard. In India, that's something which is beginning to sorrow, it's not as much, but that's the change we're trying to bring. Because as an institution, as academics, there is there's neutrality to what we bring in, because we are not towards industry, or we are not representing any stakeholdership. That's what recent reports which have mentioned, that some of the work which has been done has to sort of bring in that bit. So that's the work we are really focused on. And I think the larger goal in that for us is that we are really aligned towards what Viksit Bharat 2047 looks like for us, and we want to align ourselves towards those goals. And what AI is going to be an accelerator. What are the things we need to look forward? See, technology is always going to be ahead, in terms, but we have to be also mindful that how do we really ensure, we are bringing in the right ethical frameworks, so that we are not stultifying the advancements which technology can bring in, but your laws are able to sufficiently arm the battles which sometimes digitalization can bring in. So I think that's the core idea for us for 2026.
Thank you, Siddharth. I'll go to Paridhi here. Paridhi, I want to know, since you've been working on AI at the firm, like Richa Roy shared with us yesterday, that you've been bringing out reports. Now your firm has gone out and partnered with a leading education institution. And we also heard Raj that he shared with us that he aims to sort of give his views before the parliamentary committees where you could shape law. Uh, Tell me, what happens when you partner with an education institute? How does that sort of change things for you? Because more than the firm, you're sort of partnering with a greater community. It's for greater good. It is you're thinking much more than the firm. But that can only happen when you sort of achieve a size and scale where you can think beyond the firm. Could you sort of reflect on that and what you sort of are expecting from this center to contribute in the coming year?
No, thank you, and that's a very profound question. I think we've been very grateful from the very beginning in terms of the firm and in terms of the environment in which we have been working, that we have always looked at it not as an individual mandate, but a responsibility to the larger economy, the country, and some of these major issues from a legal perspective or economic perspective. And I think this is another moment in time for us to do exactly that. If we look back, at another era of India's development, there would have been, a similar conversation from an economic perspective. And now we are having this conversation from an AI and technology perspective. So I think maybe I think this is just taking forward the sort of DNA of our firm to that extent. And I think if you do things right, it will always impact the community at large. And I don't mean community just from a national community perspective. I think we're looking at those people who would be affected by the use and misuse of AI. I think partnering with an academic institution actually it comes with many benefits. I think one, the academic rigor and just the sheer willpower to put things down in a neutral way with the right ethical safeguards and raising the right questions. I think sometimes when you operate out of that context, there are enough tugs and pulls that sort of take the conversation in other directions. But and I think Professor Raj has mentioned this multiple times, that the academic autonomy that exists in this environment is something that we value as well. So we think that this will be a place where it will be done in the right and sustainable manner. And that's our hope for AI as well, that what we're talking about is not compliance. We're not talking about it, just in terms of a checklist that comes out. But how do you really shape a design architecture, a framework that will become sustainable for industries and the country to think about? And no better place, frankly.
Thank you, Paridhi, for this. I'll go to Professor Raj. I would this sort of want to know from you that would you feel successful if 2-3 years down the line you and me sit here in this hall and you tell me, Tarun, this is the bill that we contributed greatly through via the Cyril Shroff Centre. This law we got passed and it's an act. This is where we gave our inputs. It could be in telecom sector, in food processing, or any sector. Would you feel sort of vindicated if we are able to do that in the next few years? Work with parliamentary committees to bring out not only sort of reports, but also we can see it in action by bills being passed. Uh, of course, that has been done by universities abroad. Do you think India is now ready for this?
Thank you so much, Tarun. In fact, I must say that the Cyril Shroff Centre has already begun to partner with the Government of India. Siddharth mentioned about the initiatives that we're having as a preparatory framework for the Global AI Summit. And I must confess that in the last several years, especially the last decade, I have seen that more and more willingness on the part of the government organizations, ministries, regulatory bodies to seek out knowledge and perspectives from academics and experts has actually been a sea change. I have myself appeared before the Parliamentary Standing Committee on a number of occasions on matters related to both higher education and legal education, and I have seen an enlightened sense of engagement within the members of parliament and the government. To answer your question specifically, absolutely. I think the way the Cyril Shroff Centre has been structured and is working as we speak is actually to go deep into the regulatory and legal architecture of AI governance, which actually manifests across all industries. So one is the sectoral focus that Siddharth talked about, but we also need to be conscious of the fact that an unabashed and unregulated and even unchallenged endorsement and inclusion of AI into all aspects of life and business and work and society may not be the best way to go. And that's where we need to recognize what kind of checks and balances are in the best interest of both using AI for the overall benefit and contribution towards common good, and then to see what kind of opportunities are there so that we can progressively implement it. Another aspect which briefly Cyril had talked about, and he did discuss with me at length during the envisioning stage, is that we are not only going to focus on the implications of AI at a corporate level, at a business level. While that will, of course, be a very important part of what we do, but we are also going to focus and understand the implications of AI when it comes to promoting access to justice and strengthening the effectiveness of the legal and dispute resolution mechanisms. This obviously includes to what extent AI can be effectively used in entire both civil and criminal justice system. I must say that the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, has been progressively addressing some of these issues. And in fact, the judiciary has begun to provide a far more progressive leadership in recognizing what Cyril just now said, which is that if we continue to do the same ways by which we have tried to address the delays, the 50 million cases that are pending in Indian courts are only going to increase, and we will not be able to solve the problem. We need to think radically, we need to think creatively, and we need to, of course, rely a lot more on technology, including AI. The specific contours of that reliance, to what extent it might be useful in the adjudicatory process, to what extent it can improve the efficiency in court management across different levels, to what extent we can actually think in terms of similarly situated cases can be clubbed together through use of LLMs, which is large learning models. These type of things require a strong intersectionality understanding between people who are the experts in through engineers, those who are doing coding on the one hand, and legal experts who are trying to address problems. Unfortunately, in India and maybe even other parts of the world, and I've discussed this with AI centers in different parts of the world, the interdisciplinary collaboration does not happen. It is either technical people sort of working on AI, or the people who work in humanities and social sciences and law looking at compliance and ethics. We need to bring them together. And one of the sort of passionate projects that we are undertaking within the AI Center, the Cyril Shroff AI Center, is that how do we bring different experts from different fields to address what Cyril called the wicked problems of policy that is impacting the adjudicatory process in India.
Now I'll go to Cyril Shroff. I want to ask you that for anybody who knows in the legal industry, that you sort of always sort of discuss with your partner at the law firm, Vandana Shroff, who's also your life partner, before taking any decision. And here you were sort of backing this huge, in a sense, center at the Jindal Global University, and of course, telling the whole world that you're doing something outside the firm in backing such a venture, which is a big call in that sense. It's not the money also, but simply a big association. What did you discuss with her before you sort of backed this Cyril Shroff Centre of AI Law and Regulation at the Jindal Global University?
Oh, thank you. And I think, firstly, it comes from the ethos of the firm. We've been around 110 years since the time the firm was founded. And it has been no secret that this firm is more than just commercial practice and, making money or solving problems and practicing. It is about leaving a broader impact, what they call in the arena of influence, because long-lasting institutions leave an impact beyond their core sphere. Unless you are able to impact other things as well on from time to time in terms of what are the most current problems, you will cease to be relevant over a period of time. So this is something which has been ingrained in our thinking for decades, and I think the whole firm knows that. So tacitly or openly, I think there is a backing of the firm that we must be much more than just legal practitioners, and we must influence policy. So we've been having this policy practice for years now, and I think everybody knows it and everybody is proud of it and people contribute to it. So this is an extension of our thinking that we must be relevant in terms of how we can help shape policy on a bunch of things. That's point number one. Secondly, in terms of our ambition of the firm, we are very clear that we want to be a part of the Indian task force, if I can call it that, on Viksit Bharat. We have bought into the mission and the vision of the government that we want to be a part of that India at 100 story, and that is going to involve a number of steps. One of which is this, in terms of contributing to the most modern and current issues of our time. The money part was easy, and I think I actually didn't want to burden the rest of the partnership, so we made this contribution personally as well. And it was not a very long conversation between my family and I, and the entire family backed it because we believe in this story that we are part of. Very much like in, let's say, in from the Jindal side, when they made this institution. I mean, they have a huge steel business that is there, but they've made this contribution personally. And we don't see the distinction as between, it doesn't, it's left hand, right hand kind of philosophy. So long as you are part of nation building, so long as you as a law firm or as a citizen of the country are having an influence beyond your immediate core, I think you've been a good citizen of this country as well. So it's all driven by national pride, national vision, desire to, perpetuate your legacy and influence and your brand. These are some of the intangible factors. It was not a commercial decision at all. It was an emotional decision.
That says it all. It was an emotional decision. So basically, looking at nation building more than anything else and policy advocacy. I'll go to Siddharth. Siddharth, could you share one or two issues that are close to your heart in AI, with sort of people talk a lot of ethical AI, but any one or two issues which the AI juggernaut that is sort of now rolling will impact, and you feel concerned about it and you would like to work on it?
Thank you so much for your question. I think I would like to point two of such issues essentially. I think right now a lot of focus has actually gone on what the frameworks should look like. But I think probably we also need to take a step back and sort of understand, what are even the regulatory framework for, what kind of data sets are being trained. And, essentially building on one of our another AI summit, which we did with Cyril Amachand Mangaldas, where the government officials actually, appreciated the fact that we brought something into the picture of bringing in the regulation and the regulatory framework for data sets. Like, if data which is being fed into into machines essentially, and that has certain biases or any of that information which leads to incorrect sort of results, and that data which is not, if data is not open, it's not accessible, that makes all of this very challenging. So I think I would say that is one concern where essentially we want to sort of think about, let's say, social legal engineering, and I think that's something which you need to sort of have that in place. And I think concerns definitely, for a country like ours, which is absolutely labor intensive, there are sort of certain challenges around it. But I think we also sort of need to understand that, for example, let's talk about healthcare. So many of our professionals who are overburdened with the kind of tasks they have to sort of do. And I would say, while there are challenges, but there are equal promises as well. So I think it's always, sometimes, you have to see, what are the, is the good outweighing the negative. And that's kind of a balance which you have to always see. I mean, even when the internet came for the first time, there were always so much discussion around it, and there was so much issues that what people felt about how it is going to be. So I think it's slowly, if we embrace this change and we let technology frame and essentially build the frameworks around it, and rather, I think that's the very good step India has sort of taken. I think we really should commend what the country has sort of done. And at the very first time, we have been in the we have not directly gone after technology and started regulating it. Like, look, EU started to do it. They had the EU AI Act. Essentially, the problem then creeped in. A lot of big tech regulators are facing a problem. I think one thing which we sort of learn in this sphere is that we let it play by the ear. Let's regulate it. Let's be, pragmatic about it, because technological players, innovation also sort of has to sort of be there. So I definitely understand, to answer your question, I definitely feel it that labor intensive markets and how we sort of balance that will be a big question for us as an AI. But I think, sometimes we'll have to see what are the better and greater outcomes from that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Siddharth. I'll go to Paridhi here. So your firm's managing partner, Cyril Shroff, said they're doing it for the greater good. Uh, if you could sort of share with me one or two sectors which are close to your heart where you think AI could impact and you have a personal interest in the same. Uh, a lot of things which you would sort of not be able to do at the firm, because in the end it's a law firm, the center can deliver on, because obviously, as we saw, there are academics here and they're focused in that sense. Could you share these sectors which sort of are close to your heart and you sort of would like to see some impact happening in those sectors via this center?
Thank you for that. I may just change the terminology from sector to arena, as Mr. Shroff referred to a little bit before. I think justice is a theme that you would have been hearing from all of us. And I think justice kind of goes beyond just the judiciary. I think it starts at the step before as well. So I think there's a lot that can happen actually in some of the areas in which law enforcement has been struggling with the volume of the problem. From a sector perspective and from an arena perspective, I think if we look at what else is driving the country at this point of time, I think climate and manufacturing have been two areas which are deeply disrupted at this point. I think with wide-ranging information, with a multidisciplinary, contextual, sort of information set, I think a lot more can be done. We can really bring up the country in that sense, doing things in a more sustainable manner. I think policy will need to keep up. I think laws will need to modernize for sure. I think where we've seen a lot of impact actually has been in the fintech and tech fin space, frankly. But a lot of the other quote unquote traditional sectors will be, will need to pivot, will need to actually have a, sort of a gut renovation, frankly. And then kind of think about where does AI need to get embedded. Is it just for understanding? Is it for implementation? Is it for solving the problem at scale? Is it for changing the way things were done? I think there's so much scope. We actually end up talking to so many of so many members of the industry and asking how they're thinking about it. And the younger generation, the next gen, is definitely thinking about this in a very positive way. In terms of, this shouldn't be something we are afraid of. It is a reality. Our children are going to use it far more than we are. The next gen is adopting it far more. So how do we make it the most positive tool that has been implemented in the country so far? So very excited for it, frankly.
Yeah, looking forward to, I think, when we discuss actually some reports and some contributions on law that the center does. For the closing comment, I'll go to Professor Raj Kumar. Uh, what are we going to discuss next year when we meet for this?
So I just want to take up on what you asked earlier, especially with Cyril, that why something like this has been done by the firm. In some ways, the idea of altruism and in contributing to society is deeply embedded in the cultures of both organizations. Our university's mission has been a private university promoting public service, and that's been part of our DNA, and that is the vision of our Chancellor, Sri Naveen Jindal, who envisaged the idea that despite successes in business, the need to contribute to nation building is so centrally located surrounding institution building. And that is exactly probably the vision with which Cyril Shroff decided to establish the center. In terms of actual impact, I must say that, one of the things which we should also be conscious of is that the nature of the work that we're going to undertake in the center is going to be very dynamic, very evolutionary, and also the technology is also rapidly evolving. So we should not make the mistake of hurriedly coming up with conclusions which are not going to be based upon a more longitudinal understanding of the implications. So a more calibrated approach towards understanding these issues are very critical. Second is that we also need to look at experiences from around the world. We are not, AI is operating in such an arena that the entire world is discussing this. I just returned from the World Economic Forum in Davos, and it was amazing that there is not a single part of the world, and I'm talking about not just the global north, which is simply United States and Canada and European Union and all of that, but global south, be it from Africa to Middle East to Latin America to, of course, Asia. All countries in the world are, as we speak, embracing AI and are eagerly looking at how AI can solve their own problems, and they're looking at it from their own vantage standpoint. So in some ways, this center has a unique opportunity to provide global thought leadership in recognizing the complexity. And unfortunately, a typical corporation or a company or a business enterprise or even a law firm, in the domains in which they operate, are not having the bandwidth or the time or the inclination to look at it from that standpoint. So that is why I believe the Cyril Shroff Centre has a huge opportunity to study and to provide sort of evidence-based understanding as to its implications. We also want to ensure that we are looking at comparative perspectives and looking at different countries, how they have tried to solve the problems, the mistakes that they may have made, and how they are also recalibrating themselves, and what lessons we can learn from them for India. We also need to address that the nature of these regulations is such that it needs to be sector specific. And that's why Siddharth talked about the fact that we will be looking at several critical sectors and how AI can have an impact on it. We didn't talk much about it, but issues relating to privacy, issues relating to, we use the word broadly ethics, but one of the big issues that we will have to also be conscious of is that to what extent uniqueness of individuals need to be protected, to what extent humanity can take so much of AI in its own board. We've also not talked much about the fact that the energy implications of artificial intelligence is significant. In fact, one of the things in Davos we discussed also is about climate change and climate impact, and technology or unabashed endorsement and use of technology has an inevitable consequence for energy as well. So in some ways, what I want to say is that the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI Law and Regulation is a global, interdisciplinary, multi-dimensional, research-based, evidence-based initiative that has the potential to provide a range of solutions and perspectives for us to develop a better understanding of AI, and also to create a regulatory and legal architecture that will help AI as a force for contributing to common good.
Thank you for explaining this beautifully. Now we look forward to year 2 of the Cyril Shroff Centre for AI, Law and Regulation next year. Of course, we'll get to discuss some laws that the centre has worked on in the coming year, and I'm sure the year 2 will be as interesting as year 1 discussion was. I'd like to thank Professor Raj Kumar, the Vice Chancellor of Jindal Global University. I want to thank Cyril Shroff, Managing Partner, Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, Siddharth Chauhan, who heads the Cyril Shroff Centre, and Paridhi Hadani, who's a partner at Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Thank you for joining us. It was an interesting discussion, and look forward to see you next year. Thank you.